She is only 20 years old. She is the 6th seed. And this is her first time stepping onto a clay court in Europe this season. Yet somehow, Alexandra Eala already feels like the most dangerous player in the entire draw of the 2026 Upper Austria Ladies Linz Open. This is not empty hype. This is not something crafted for clicks or attention. This is the honest conclusion you reach when you sit down, push aside the surface-level narratives, and truly examine what this young Filipino woman has been doing over the past 2 months. Because something real, something meaningful, is quietly shifting in women's tennis right now, and Alexandra Eala stands right at the heart of that change. The tournament itself is marking its 35th anniversary in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. Instead of simply hanging celebratory banners or producing a nostalgic highlight reel, the organizers made a bold, physical statement. They completely ripped out the traditional hard courts and transported more than 100 tons of rich red clay into the heart of the city's modern design center. 100 tons. That is not a minor renovation. That is a declaration of intent. And the moment I heard about this surface transformation, the first name that flashed through my mind was Eala. Because if you understand her journey, if you know where she came from and how her game was carefully constructed, then you realize this clay court was not merely favorable for her. In many ways, it feels almost custom-built for the kind of tennis she was born to play. But before we dive deeper into Eala's story, we must give proper respect to the woman standing across the net, Julia Grabher. At 29 years old, the Austrian is ranked number 87 in the world, with a career high of number 54 back in 2023. She is no stranger to clay. In fact, she has been deliberately sharpening her game on the surface, grinding through WTA 125 events in Turkey earlier this year with the specific goal of preparing for the European clay swing. This is not a player simply showing up and hoping for the best. This is a seasoned professional who identified a weakness, went to work on it, and is now arriving at her home tournament fully prepared and dangerous. And then there is the crowd. In professional tennis, a home crowd is never just background noise or atmosphere. It is a living, breathing force. It carries weight. It applies pressure. It lifts the home player through difficult moments she might otherwise lose and forces the visiting player to second-guess shots she would normally strike with total conviction. Julia Grabher will walk onto that court feeling something very few players ever experience in their careers. An entire city united behind her, willing her to victory, absorbing every mistake, and exploding with joy on every winner. That emotional charge matters. It can turn good players into giants for a day. When you frame this first-round matchup correctly, it is far from a walkover. It is a genuine test, the kind of high-pressure examination that has ended the promising runs of many talented young players in the past. Players who looked unstoppable on paper, but could not hold their composure when the atmosphere grew heavy and the situation stopped feeling like just another match. The real question is whether Alexandra Eala is that kind of player. And after carefully studying her recent record, her background, and the way she has been performing this spring, I believe the answer is a resounding no. Let's rewind just a few weeks. Indian Wells and Miami, the prestigious Sunshine Double. Two of the biggest and most demanding hardcourt events outside the Grand Slams. Packed stadiums, top 20 opponents, and crowds filled with knowledgeable fans who have watched the greatest players in the world for decades. Eala did not simply show up and compete. She fought her way into the round of 16 at both tournaments back-to-back. She played physical, aggressive, and remarkably composed tennis against experienced women who had been on the tour long before she turned professional. That level of consistency and mental strength under intense pressure is no coincidence. It is the sign of a player who is discovering the level she truly belongs at and refusing to step away from it. What makes her upcoming transition to clay genuinely fascinating, however, is a deeper truth. Hard courts were never truly her natural home. They were never where her game felt most comfortable or complete. Because Alexandra Eala was built on clay, almost literally. For years, she trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, one of the most rigorous and prestigious academies in professional tennis. That environment does far more than refine technique. It reshapes the way you think about the game itself. It teaches an almost spiritual level of patience. It trains you to construct points over 15, 20, or even 30 shots without losing focus. It develops elite footwork, devastating heavy topspin, comfort with high-bouncing balls, and the calm ability to stay mentally present during long, grinding baseline exchanges. These qualities are not developed in a few short training blocks. They are wired into her game at the most foundational level. So, when commentators talk about Eala transitioning to clay for the European swing, they are slightly missing the point. She is not transitioning to a new surface. She is returning to where she belongs. And that distinction changes everything about how this match and her entire clay season should be viewed. From a technical perspective, this matchup presents a fascinating breakdown. When Eala unleashes her left-handed forehand on clay, the ball does not simply land with pace. It explodes upward off the surface. The combination of her natural swing path, the heavy topspin she generates so effortlessly, and the way clay courts extend and amplify that bounce means Julia Grabher will be forced to deal with balls repeatedly rising toward her shoulder. That constant adjustment drains a player both physically and mentally in ways that are difficult to measure, but impossible to ignore after 2 long sets. You cannot simply block those shots back and expect the point to reset in your favor. You must fight for every inch of court position. The moment you are even slightly slow or out of position, the point is likely over. Grabher's smartest strategy is clear and logical. She will not try to overpower Eala from the baseline. That is a battle she is unlikely to win. Instead, she will look to vary the pace, inject tactical unpredictability, and keep the rallies at a tempo where she can move freely rather than getting dragged into the kind of heavy, extended exchanges that perfectly suit Eala's strengths. She will also lean heavily on the home crowd, using their energy as her greatest weapon. Any intelligent professional uses every available advantage. Her hope will be simple. Stay close in the first set, let the electric atmosphere work in her favor, and wait for Eala to feel the pressure, make a few unforced errors, and begin to press. It has happened before to far more experienced players. The emotional weight of a fully invested home crowd is a real and well-documented force in tennis. But here is where that plan may run into a wall. Alexandra Eala is not stepping onto this court carrying doubt or uncertainty. She is carrying the momentum and confidence from Indian Wells and Miami. She is carrying the memory of match after match this spring where the situation grew large, and she refused to shrink from it. There is also something deeper at play, something specific about the culture of the Nadal Academy that continues to impress me. That environment is mentally rigorous in a way that shapes how a player relates to pressure over the long term. When you have trained there for years, you do not just learn to handle difficult moments. You learn to breathe through them. You develop a different kind of readiness that cannot be manufactured in a single week of preparation. My prediction for how this match unfolds is this. The opening games will be lively and electric. Grabher will come out sharp and energized, feeding off every cheer from the home crowd. Eala may take a few games to settle into the rhythm and timing of the clay bounce. That is completely normal and expected. But somewhere in the middle of the first set, once Eala lands 3 or 4 of those signature, heavy left-handed forehands into the corners, shots that Grabher simply cannot handle comfortably, the shift will begin. Once the Austrian has been forced to sprint wide and scramble back without winning the point several times, you will feel the momentum change. There is often a visible, almost physical moment in matches like this when one player realizes their plan is not working. The crowd senses it too. The arena grows, just a little quieter. The hope that once filled the stands begins to thin. I believe that moment will arrive relatively early here. And once Eala gains that foothold and begins dictating play from the baseline with her trademark patience and power, the path back for Grabher will become very narrow, very quickly. From there, Eala should close out the match in the same manner she has been finishing matches all spring, with calm, deliberate, and controlled tennis. No unnecessary drama. No sudden collapses. Just a young player who has stopped needing to prove she belongs at this level and has started simply playing like she does. Zooming out beyond this single first-round encounter, there is much more at stake. Depending on how the draw unfolds, Eala could face Yelena Ostapenko in the second round. The former French Open champion possesses an explosive, almost reckless power that very few women on tour can match. She is the kind of opponent who can end your tournament before you even find your rhythm. That matchup on clay would be genuinely compelling. Ostapenko's flat, aggressive ball striking is far more difficult to sustain over long rallies on the slower surface, while Eala's heavy topspin and patience would force her to earn every single point. I suspect Eala would look at that potential clash with anticipation rather than anxiety. A deep run at this tournament, especially coming immediately after her career-best hardcourt results, would accomplish something far greater than ranking points. It would begin to change her reputation inside the locker room. It would send a clear message to every other player in the draw who has been watching her rise with polite interest rather than genuine concern. That particular chapter of underestimating Alexandra Eala is rapidly coming to an end. Julia Grabher still has every reason to believe she can pull off an upset tonight. Her thorough preparation, her experience on clay, the passionate support of her home crowd, and the emotional charge of playing in front of people who have followed her journey for years. None of that should be underestimated. But Alexandra Eala is no longer just a promising young talent hoping to make her mark. She is a player who has already begun to play like she belongs among the best.